Well, good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, April the 25th, 2024. Good evening, council and staff. A special welcome to those that are joining us in person. Remind you, communication devices are to be either shut off or put on vibrate. For those that are joining with us virtually, we hope that you find the proceedings fruitful this evening. First of all, I'd like to recognize that yesterday was Administration Professional Day for all those that work in the offices and all that they do day in and day out. We certainly thank you for your contribution. Sadly, I would like to express our sympathy to two families within our community, the recent passing of Terry Simonton and Joe McGrail. Both of them are very strong contributors to the welfare of Plympton-Wyoming, and we certainly share their family's grief at this time, express our condolences to them. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Nishnawbe. It is through the connection of the Nishnawbe with the spirit of the land, the water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. I'd like to recognize as well that this meeting is being streamed live and recorded on the town for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. Council, I remind you, if you have a particular interest, to declare it at the appropriate time. Clerk, do we have any delegations this evening?
No delegations this evening, Your Worship.
Okay, well, Council, let's go to item 5, business arising from the previous meetings. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolbert, that the report prepared by Adam Sabansky, Chief Administrative Officer, dated April 19th, 2024, regarding the town of Plympton-Wyoming strategic plan update and initiatives for the current term of council be received, and that council endorses the 2023 to 2028 strategic plan, and the 2023 to 2027 strategic initiatives. Mr. Sabansky, as the author of this, is there anything that you'd like to add at this point?
Yes, sir. Thank you to council and senior staff for participating in the strategic planning workshops. They're very helpful in helping Mr. Boyle develop the strategic plan. Mr. Boyle's plan is attached for your review and endorsement. Staff developed the strategic initiatives based off of Mr. Doyle's strategic plan, the observations that we made during the workshop, and the discussions we've had as council and staff along the way. So we're hoping that there is something there that kind of illustrates on ways we can meet those strategic priorities that were put forth in a tangible way. The strategic priorities tend to be very vague. So we wanted to put something tangible that we can all achieve together in the next 2 years before the next election.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sabansky. Any questions? Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you. So on the looking at expanding lands in Imlaki area, I just would like some clarification on that. Like, so if something's zoned residential, can an owner then ask if they want to turn around and invest it for commercial, let's say, or a different, can they not come to, I'm not sure, for rezoning?
Yes, Madam Councillor, we would be happy to have discussions with any existing developer who currently has residential holdings in the Kamlaki or Lakeside area about the possibility of rezoning those lands to a commercial zoning. As per the discussion in my report, we've probably heard during our zoning bylaw amendment that will be undertaken later this year. It may also require that we amend our official plan, but those two processes can be done in conjunction with each other. So we would not only be considering lands currently not designated as settlement area, but we would absolutely work with developers with lands in the settlement area to see if there is uses that are more than the currently residential zoning or otherwise.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Bojan?
Yeah, thank you. I got a couple of questions, just make them specific. For the first one, wastewater infrastructure feasibility study. So when I hear feasibility study, I think of a consultant coming in and saying, do we need it? How badly do we need it? And when do we need it? And when you read the report and when we talk around this circle, we know we need it. We know how to do it. So I'm just wondering, do we need to, like, what's the goal with the feasibility study? Because it's a decent amount of money that we're planning to use for that. So if we know we want to put wastewater all the way to Reese's Corner, we know how it's done because we've expanded it before. I'm just wondering if there's a way to skip the feasibility part. As soon as you call it a feasibility study, the price skyrockets for consultants. So I'm just wondering what we're hoping to get out of that. And if do it differently.
Absolutely. Feasibility was used more in the technical sense, whether it was technically feasible to service those lands. Confusion, we could amend that to be a Reese's Corners wastewater master plan or a future wastewater master plan. There's ways to work around that. We can make it much more of a technical exercise where we're looking at what the options are to service the area and what those options would cost specifically. We can definitely narrow that scope to avoid the other aspects of that we can just narrow down in how could we build it, how much would it cost to build it, and how long should we take to build it.
Okay, yeah, that in. Which kind of led to my next one, the economic development plan. There's a CIP piece in here, so I think all this works together. So expanding commercial availability in Kimilaki, for example, I think we also need to make sure we're incentivizing the use of existing commercial land that's sitting there, not fully used. So I think the CIP addresses that, and I think the CIP would address whatever an economic development plan would address. So we have SLEP, and we started to work closely with SLEP. Does staff think that if we update the CIP first, then maybe we can address these economic development needs with SLEP without the need to spend 50 grand on an economic development plan?
Yes and no. So the CIP concentrates more on the CIP itself more concentrates on the planning aspects and the facade aspects and the design aspects of a downtown area. Part of that plan was a grant program, as we've seen has been successful in downtown Wyoming. That's why we kind of wanted to push that out to the Kamlaki area to offer to similar opportunities. The economic development plan is more helping guide us into where we should be concentrating our efforts in regards to economic development. It does not necessarily have to cost that amount. That is the amount we pulled off the internet, but we can always scope that more narrowly to what we actually want to occur. We can carry out the CIP portion, and we can then work with SLEP as we already plan to do so. And the economic development plan itself would be included in the budget deliberations. Just because you endorse this report doesn't mean it occurs when and how it's said in this report. That is at council's final discretion. As we further develop these recommendations, we may amend them and adjust them to be more economically feasible. And that is one we would definitely look at. We just were looking to get something, a basic document to help us guide us where we want to put our strategies towards. So it would be the beginning, and we're not quite into the depths yet. So we would definitely have to have a lot more conversation before that gets approved on what we're looking for that plan to tell us. And in the end, if we think that plan is not what council is looking for, then we do not carry out that initiative for that reason, as we felt that initiative is being addressed through our partnership with SLEP and our existing CIP plan.
Thank you. I just have one more, Mr. Mayor, if I can. It'll be
Sure.
quick. With the CIP, are we planning to do more than just expand the CIP boundaries? For example, are we going to reopen it completely to look at additional incentives we can do? So whether that's DC's charges or like it's DC's, but I know there's a bunch of financial incentives that you can build into that and encourage someone who owns commercial land to improve it or build more on it. So are we going all the way to look at the incentives as well?
I didn't put that in bold lettering, but there was a subtle suggestion in there that it would be looked at how to expand it to better support local businesses. I left that vague for that very intention because there's a wide variety of incentives that you could do. But yes, part of the, at least the initial review process would be what can we do to help businesses? And then through council, when we develop the CIP, we can narrow it down. So let's say if we build a lot of incentives into our CIP, maybe then you're right, the economic development plan doesn't become necessarily as useful. But if our CIP is very narrowed to like downtown design and a facade grant, it leaves a lot of room for improvement. And that's where you may want to have an economic development plan where we can offer, you know, reduced DCs or fees or something of that at council's discretion. So it depends how far we get with the CIP on how far we would need to go with the economic development plan potentially.
Thank you. That answered all my questions. Thank you.
And to my left. Mr. Willett?
I think it was a great exercise. I do think we need to get serious about what we are or what we're not going to do in the next 2 years. And, you know, I look at a couple of things on here that are certainly of interest to me, and certainly the Reese's Corners development, water, sewer is extremely important. I would say number one, just in my mind, and developing some commercial real estate in the Kamalaki area. You know, they certainly need gas stations out there and stuff like that. We did touch on that a little bit a few years ago about a commercial zone in Kamalaki. I believe it was just west of the curve. We had talked about a section being taken out of there for commercial. It didn't go through the council. The council didn't agree with it at the time. So I'm just going to stop there at those two items. But I think instead of dragging for 2 years and doing nothing in here, we should take out what we're going to do and put some priority.
I might add, I agree with Councillor Wolvett. And once we polish this up and zero in on our exact initiatives and goals, is there a way that we can keep it right front of mind? Whether it's on every agenda, maybe that's a little much, but certainly be reminded of it constantly so that we know exactly where we're going and polish the way to get there as much as we can.
Sort of focus on what we want.
So yes, absolutely. The strategic priorities will be in your staff reports moving forward. So you have strategic priorities listed at the bottom of your current staff reports. Those priorities would be replaced with your updated priorities. The strategic initiatives, I don't know if you'd want to put them in there because you're kind of creating a working list as you go through council. Our intention was to put them on the website and to put them up on Facebook afterwards and post them in the office, etc. What we could do though is, as part of the annual budget process, we could make sure that there is a staff report attached reviewing where we've been for the year and what projects we're looking at for the following year in regards to those initiatives. So that way, a minimum once a year, you're seeing it. And maybe as part of, you can see in there, we're also recommending budget updates every 3 to 4 months. Maybe accompanying those budget updates, we can also have a strategic plan or strategic initiatives update. Maybe not necessarily every 3 to 4 months, but maybe every 6 months, even if it is to say that we've made no progress, but here's, or no actual physical process, but we're working towards items A, B, and C at this time.
Because typically you have an initiative and then you work it back, so you know exactly what you're doing this week or this month to reach that initiative, if you're going to be successful.
Yep.
And yeah, our memories can sometimes get caught in the weeds with a lot of the other issues we're dealing with, and if we're constantly confronted with those initiatives, I think that would be powerful. Yeah.
I think that we can do that at the staff level. I think making sure that an update is provided as part of the budget deliberation documents is probably important. And then mid-year, when you receive a budget update at the same meeting, you can also receive an update on regards to our progress on these initiatives. Okay.
Debbie?
I agree with all the prior comments to me suggesting something. And that is, we're going to protect small farms in here. I don't see anything about addressing preserving agricultural lands at all. Why can't we focus in on that a little bit more? More, I don't know. We're not, yeah, go ahead.
And that is absolutely one I struggled with as well. And that's why you see there the absence. higher up in the strategic priorities that we spoke about at the session. Gaining, missing middle houses, gaining commercial lands were very high on the priority list. But unfortunately, encouraging development also typically chews up residential lands. Agricultural.
Yeah, I was
lands.
just gonna say wrong one. yeah.
So I do think we have a need to look to do something better in that regard. I know through the county of Lambton, and I do believe our mayor may be the incoming chair of that committee, there is going to be a agricultural committee formed, which will help represent local farmers a lot better. And I think a lot of these exercises, as we go through them, such as when we go through the county's review of the settlement area, I think we all need to bear in mind that we want to concentrate development in certain areas so that we can ensure that there is stable farmland in those other areas. Same through our ZBA that we'll be undertaking later in the year, and same when we do our official plan. I think I didn't have a tangible item we could do to do that one, because I think that's something that council and staff will have to do. Any planning application is really look at the planning applications, the processes, and ensure that we are putting development where development belongs and not unnecessarily chewing up prime ag lands. So unfortunately, I struggled to find a tangible action we could do for that one, other than we need to be mindful when we're looking at each development of its effects on the surrounding agricultural lands.
I think that you need to draw a line where, you can't go by because they just keep chewing away and pressing out.
And
And get these residential lands that are so marked and so zoned, have more concentration there instead of, just letting.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And the process for that is the settlement area review from the county of Lambton, our OPA and our ZBA reviews. That is where those policies, those red lines are set and moved forward.
Okay, so, but we need something to protect agricultural lands, same as our last strategic plan. You mentioned once, oh, it's great to, preserve agricultural lands, that's it. That's it, in general little statement, let's do something.
But
positive.
if a piece of agricultural land is not in the county OPA as settlement area, it's not in the town's OPA as residential area or commercial or industrial area, and it's in the zoning as agricultural, the process to make those lands into something other than agricultural is extremely difficult. So that is where, right now, we're losing residential lands because our county's OPA, our OPA, and our zoning has it as future residential in many cases. If they were as ag lands in all those documents, the chance to make that into a residential land is very, very challenging.
Yes, yeah, I got that, but I also know that all these planning documents tell me that the municipality can make the rules more stringent than anybody else, and when it filters down, we never can. Why don't we just force that a little bit more? I have a runny nose, I'm not crying about it.
Deputy Mayor, if you have a tangible action that we can take to do that, we can add that to the list. Myself, other than concentrating the settlement area in certain areas and then corresponding our official plan and our zoning bylaws with that, I didn't see any tangible item I could put there.
I guess I've got my answer.
I can certainly add through there that we, as item number 6, I think, under which initiative was the agricultural lands under?
It was
Priority.
Right, silver.
We could
Priority
put
level.
a 6th initiative under the silver priorities that during the County of Lambton official plan review, the town's future official plan reviews, and the town's zoning bylaw, comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment, that council will ensure that residential development is concentrated near existing or established
Yeah, and
residential
not
area.
jump all over the place. Thank you. You
So-
didn't want to add that?
Council confident or comfortable with that comment?
So I just need clarification because They're expanded on that. You know, we're taking way more ag land. And that's where I'm kind of confused and why I was asking the question, why you can't take existing residential area. Where there is existing residential area and it can be rezoned. Commercial, that's an option.
It is absolutely an option.
I guess the way I was reading it was like we were looking for more land to designate. Commercial, like expanding instead of looking at what we already have.
Staff have looked at what we already have and what's already within the settlement area, and then other than a specific property in the Kamlaki area that is currently designated in the zone residential, there's not a lot there that could be redesignated to the commercial.
But where else would you look? Like, are you looking at agricultural land then? And that's kind of where I'm confused.
Their option.
But that's where I'm confused, and that's certainly not my desire. I don't want to see that happen. I'd rather see it. I mean, at the end of the day, you can take agricultural land and zone it and allow it to be zoned commercial. But it's up to that property owner what they want to do with it.
It is, and we've been approached by numerous of the agricultural owners in that area that would be interested in the commercial zone.
Okay, but I would not be interested in that. I don't know, I guess we'd have to learn more. But as far as, I mean, trying to dictate the settlement areas when it's such a large settlement catch basin, it's kind of hard because it's all dependent on the developers, where they want to build, when, you know, who's got the money, and that's what makes it so fragmented at the end of the day, unfortunately.
But that is also why we're stalled out at the Long Lake, because the majority of the lakefront lands are held in one holding. And we have other developers looking for lands to develop in that area, but we do not have additional settlement lands in that area. So right now, all the holdings are these very narrow areas. And we have worked with those developers and are willing to continue to work with those developers. And through all these processes, we will be working with those developers to look for opportunities for missing middle houses or commercial development. But with just those properties alone, there is gaps in what would make sense for additional residential and commercial lands. So the town also needs to ensure that we are not holding ourselves to a set grouping of lands when there is also lands that would make sense into the future.
In
Specifically with
that
the-
same stretch,
Yes.
because it already was originally for that, so. Unfortunate.
Councillor Bays, yeah, I'm sorry I missed you. Do you have anything under item 5.1? Any comments on the strategic plan?
No real comments. It's very well written. I agree with what they're saying. We did a good job. They did a good job.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Thank you. All right, council, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Sorry,
Yes.
Rich.
That's amended.
Can we write as amended, please?
Sure.
Because we added that one point.
Yep.
On, or Councillor Van Claveren and Councillor Wolvet, you're okay with that? Isn't it?
You want me to read it again?
Would you please?
Yes. Moved by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvet, that the report prepared by Adam Sabansky, Chief Administrative Officer, dated April 19th, 2024, regarding the town of Plympton-Wyoming strategic plan update and initiatives for current term of council be received, and the council endorses the 2023 to 2028 strategic plan and the 2023 to 2027 strategic initiatives as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Samansky, for that report. Okay, council, let's go to item 6.1. A motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Bojan, that the minutes be adopted by council, those confidential minutes of the closed sessions. Council remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. It would be our regular council meeting minutes, as well as our closed council meeting minutes of April the 10th, 2024. Special council meeting minutes of April the 11th, 2024, and the closed special council meeting minutes April the 11th, 2024. Are there any questions on any of those? Not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council will go to item 6.2. A motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvett. The minutes be adopted by council in those confidential minutes of the closed sessions and remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. That would be our Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes of February 27th, 2024. Our Special Events Committee meeting minutes of March the 4th, 2024. And our Wyoming Public Cemetery and Inactive Cemetery Committee meeting of March 14th, 2024. We have Cervasi for the parks, Councillor Bojan as our liaison with special events, and Councillor Wolvett for the cemetery. Are there any questions of any of these here people? Not, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to item 6.3. Councilor's report.
Yes, since we had a good roads conference just recently, maybe each one of you who went can spend 2 minutes on education and networking highlights from the Good Roads Conference, which you recently attended. How'd be, and I want something a little more than last year that said it was a good conference. So, you know, a little more than one sentence, maybe 2 sentences at least, okay? Okay.
It was a very
good conference. We'll start with Mr. Wolvett.
Thank you. Found the conference to be very educational, Madam Deputy Mayor. Certainly a very interesting opening speech given by a gentleman from the United States on the design and development of municipality cities and stuff like that, and the safety on roads and that in residential neighborhoods and so on and so forth. I found it extremely interesting because it kind of went against the way we even design roads and stuff in subdivisions to do with parking, to do with, matter of fact, the parking thing was, we always think, well, it's bad to have parking on a residential road, and yet his design was it's good to have parking on a residential road because it slows traffic down. So he went on how they design different roads, like for instance, if you're coming to an intersection and a stoplight, and you have some of them little express lanes that go off to the right, so you can get around that corner in a hurry. Very unsafe, lots of accidents. So road cities, they're eliminating them, so you have to come up to the corner to make your. It was just and bicycle lanes and stuff like that. Really, really interesting. As far as the networking goes, Madam Deputy Mayor, you know, they picked on me a lot during that convention, but I'm a big boy and I could handle it. But the networking was good with other municipalities. And we thank the mayor for his hospitality.
Mr. Van
Yeah, 1.5 minutes. I got down to
That's
30
good.
seconds.
No, you can quit now. Mr. Van Claveren.
Yes, Madam Deputy Mayor, it was a well-attended conference. I have to agree with Councillor Wolvett. The first seminar was the best seminar. It really turned road design on its ear. It was like an evangelist preaching a sermon, and you had to think completely different than maybe how we would normally think, like how a 3-lane highway could handle as much traffic as a 4-lane. And the theory being that if the more road area you create, the more traffic you create, not less congestion. Eliminating a center line highway, thought was an interesting concept. On a flat stretch of road, maybe not so much curves or hills or anything like that. Very interesting. A lot of
What's that
networking.
going to do? Can I ask you what that?
Sure, it automatically slows it down the speed by at least 10%.
Oh, okay.
instantly.
Yeah.
Because they're not quite as trusting in
Yeah.
their narrow corridor. And
Huh.
fascinating stuff. Highly scientific and well proven and so very good. Yeah, lots of folks there to network with. I managed to squeeze in some conversation with many about some of our issues in regards maybe to CN and the like, and seeing if that was shared by any other municipalities.
Good.
So, yeah, it was well worth going.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr., what's your name? Boucher? You
Uh,
didn't go to it.
I wasn't at the conference.
Right, right.
I got to pretend I was in charge for a couple of days. No, I have no updates other than the events committee's working on their stuff.
Mr. Vazy.
Yes, well, before I go to better roads, we had our Parks and Rec meeting in Kamlaki last week. Nobody showed up. Not even the deputy mayor for the first little bit until she found
I
him.
was 4 minutes late.
But we did get a report back on our public info for Blue Point Park. We got a fair amount of feedback. Number one by far was improved beach access, so that's something we're gonna concentrate on this year and then work away at the rest. Also went to the Historical Society meeting last Wednesday. Dr. Dan from Corunna, I wrote his name down, but
Uriel, that's his name. Dr.
he's a major in the Canadian Army and talked about his deployments and whatnot. It was hugely fascinating. Great. And the roads, like I say, number one for me was the same guy, how to do our public streets and not so much highways, but he goes into a city and takes out half of the streetlights right away. Put one in, and one-way streets are terrible. He puts them all back to two-way because it slows everybody down. And the whole thing, you can put signs up, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't slow them down. Park your cars and make it narrow. Slows them down. If they feel comfortable, they go faster. And that was his big thing. And that's what we do. So other than that, it's a good conference. Enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Okay, that was, everybody's covering the first day. You don't hear anything about the rest.
What was the best part? You want to hear about the worst part?
All right, you got 15 seconds. No, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I really haven't even had any 5 seconds since I've been back, so to write 2 minutes worth, but
Write it down, you can just,
oh my God, I'm trying not to face plant at this point. But I do agree that that was a very informative, and it was just totally opposite of what we all thought was for the roads, the streetlights, even with me as well, where they take them out and put in 4-way stops. It's way better. And the other thing was with the bike lanes. They were saying how we're putting bike lanes in the road, and then you have to cross over them to get to a right turn and things like that. They said completely wrong.
I believe you. And what was the solution?
That and trees. So, street trees. So you put the bike lane next to your curb and you put the parking out. Right, so you're pulling in and parking, you're not interfering with this bike lane at all. A lot of cities and towns are using the boulevards even for the bike lanes and the sidewalk for the sidewalks, using up that wasted boulevard space. And it creates a buffer for safety for cyclists and pedestrians. So it creates strict, safer walkability and active transportation. So all that's changing now too, because it was all done kind of weird. And trees, believe it or not, also create that buffer between pedestrian and road traffic along boulevards. So those were two of the biggest things, too, along with what everybody said. But I also met with Cheryl White. She's a mayor of
Warren Pryor?
Warren. And Joanne Vanderhand. See.
What did you say?
Joanne
Oh,
Vanderhand.
I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, because it wasn't coming out right.
Okay.
And they're involved in the women in politics at provincial level, working with Good Roads and so I've been invited to kind of get some brainstorming and input kind of, you know, because that's what stage they're at, is looking for that, how to shape. You know, what are the needs, what are the obstacles, and then form, is there any way to mitigate some of those barriers? Is there even any interest? Things like that. So, and at that stage, met tons and tons of other. I think I reintroduced myself to some people about 3 times. Cause it'd be like, oh, I was meeting them all over again, because I met so many different wonderful people from across the province. So it was really good.
Good, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
did you
Deputy.
do Anything interesting at our Good Roads Conference?
I did, and I'll get to that in just 30 seconds if you don't mind. First of all, I would say that I was sworn in as a member of the Lambton Group OPP Detachment Board. And council, I believe I sent you and senior staff a copy of some interesting statistics relating to that group. I was present at a special presentation at our wellness center, where between ourselves at the family health team, North Lambton and the Rapids, we received $910,000 for primary care from the province, and that was very well attended. I want to thank our staff for the hosting the facilities and making sure that the place was set up properly, and a lot of press, a lot of good press from it, and thank you, staff, for everything that you did. Today I had a laws meeting. Going back to Good Roads, Deputy, I did have an opportunity to converse with several municipalities relating to our ongoing CN issue. Mayor Case and I were on the talking to a lot of people about that. We also ran into our good friend Daniel Salvatore from CN there, and this discussion with him. And I was involved with a presentation with the parliamentary assistant for the Minister of Infrastructure, MPP Sandhu, working towards the restructuring part of laws, so that we can, as laws can go and become a corporation, to go out and get funding and grants, et cetera. So it does affect the municipalities that we're all part of. And we were very well received. In fact, General Manager Mr. Harper has a meeting on Thursday next week with them. So I think that was a very successful event. Relating to that, there will be a presentation going to all of our municipalities, informing you how laws is proposing to restructure for that, so we can do that. So that will be coming down the pike as well. And that was my activity since the last meeting. How about you, Deputy?
Oh, did you want to?
No, I didn't want to jump in, but I did forget about the Conservation Authority. I had to, so I can do it after you. So in the last meeting, as you heard, Ken Phillips say here, there was new legislation where some permits were being taken away, minor parent. People won't need permits for certain things, but that also included maintenance on drains for municipalities as well. So they said the impact would be about 50 permits and 130 DART LCRs annually. So which are the permits on drains or repairs. So that loss is equivalent to 25,000 to the Conservation Authority. So I asked how they were planning on offsetting that loss of revenue from the municipality. And they said that they were going to be filling in a regulation position to help offset that cost. And then the other one was the floodplain mapping. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the fact that they've been doing it for the last 5+ years. Well, it's finally done. So they gave us a big presentation. And the end, it's quite very specific technology where you just get like, it might be here, kind of, but now it's here. So that resulted in a reduction in floodplains in in our municipality, they were using as examples in their presentation. But I'm pretty sure it's right across the board. So that is good news and might help some developers.
I was just gonna say, so now they can build in what used to be a floodplain.
Yeah, or that area might be reduced to only a portion where it might have taken up a bigger portion of that land. So that was,
That it now?
sorry.
That's okay. And I didn't.
So Sabansky, would you like to add to that before I go back to the deputy?
If you don't mind. Councilor Rodriguez, did they say if they updated their floodplain on the GIS mapping so that staff has access to it?
That's an interesting question, because they were talking about some sort of new technology they were using that they were gonna make available to the Conservation Authority. Because under the regulations, they have to update it every year now. And that update would be just a review to see if anything's changed, I guess. So that is a good question. Because they were just talking about this whole bit of thought.
I guess we'll keep an eye out on the mapping to see if it changes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I attended a Plympton-Wyoming Historical Society meeting, the same one as Mr. Basie did, and yes, it was very interesting, very long. It was a little lengthy. I don't think it would have been so lengthy if I'd had a softer chair, that's all. But it was very interesting, and there was quite a few present too. I don't know about, what did you say, 40, 50 people there? Yeah, it was great. So, and then the rest of the time, I sort of went on vacation.
You're on a diplomatic.
Yes, a diplomatic tour of Kentucky. How's that?
Well, welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Okay, council, let's go to item 7.1. Deputy, or sorry, clerk, is there anything under accounts?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
All right, let's go to item 8, staff reports. I have 8.1. Motion by Councilor Wolbett, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the report prepared by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, date April the 15th, 2024, regarding the Carmichael Drain tender be received and the tender from Murray Mills Excavating and Trucking, Sarnia Limited, for $197,693.50, including HST, be accepted, and bylaw 43 of 2024 be approved and taken as having been read 3 times. The mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Ms. Cummings, the author of this report, is here. Ms. Cummings, anything to add to your report? Okay, council, any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried. Ms. Cummings. Okay, let's go to item 8.2. Moved by Councilor Bojan, seconded by Councilor Rodriguez, that the report prepared by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated April 12, 2024, regarding the 2024 hardtop resurfacing tender results were received, and that the tender from Sevcon Paving for $270,072.49 plus HST be accepted, and that bylaw 41 2024 being taken has been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Mr. De Silva, anything to add to your report?
Only that there's a small budget surplus, so we're reviewing some additional roads or road that to utilize those funds, and we'll bring something back as a contract extension to council for review.
It says annual hard topping. When do we do that regularly on this area?
We plan to do it regularly, spend about $250,000. As council may be aware, there was an additional $90,000 that was allocated to that during the 2024 budget deliberations.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor Wolbett?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, that's the way I like to see a bid process. Close, tight, not a big spread like the previous one we just viewed of double. Very tight. Look at the difference between the 2 lowest, very close. So nice bid process.
Thank you. Anything further? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 8.3. I have a motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Rodriguez. The report by Paul De Silva. Director of Public Works dated April the 12th, 2024 regarding the shoreline protection at 4130 Blue Point Drive be received and that procurement policy be waived in favor of the negotiated method and the quote submitted by Gordon Shoreline Marine in the amount of $198,000 plus HST be approved for the installation of steel sheet pile 4130 Blue Point Drive. Mr. De Silva, anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions to my left,
None from me.
to my right? Counselor Basie?
Yes, your worship, thank you. Did we look at stone there at all? I know that was preferred for Recton, not sheet piling. I was wondering why we're looking at sheet piling. Easier to match up with.
Your worship, exactly that. It's easy to match up. That's in the area. Also a stone revetment would be significantly more expensive. Well, so this is a cost-effective solution.
Counselor Basie, that answer your question?
As long as we look at it.
Yep. No problem. Counselor Rodriguez?
Thank you. Let me just say, like, armor stone wouldn't be recommended for that type of a block. That's why I would think that this would be a better option anyway. For me, I'm like this. I understand that it needs to be done. I don't necessarily agree it's an emergency. It's been eroding for a long time. There's nothing imminent happening there. And the process of tendering. And that's where I'm, stuck, because we get a lot of lectures here about the tender process and how it works. I know this is a different part of the policy and it's legitimate. And I know that going out to tender would probably take some time. Push it back a bit. Do I think that's detrimental? No, at the end of the day. So I don't know. I don't.
Silva?
Your worship. So I just want to start off by saying this is not something I'm going to ask this council to do very often. I'm a big believer in the competitive process, and the irony of the last report with the closed tenders is not lost on me. Competitive tendering is a value process. And when I looked at the quote from Gordon's, I reviewed some previous quotes that we had received and chatted with some former colleagues of mine, I was convinced that this was providing good value for this municipality. And I think it's in our best interest to move forward with the project at that time. And that's why I wrote this recommendation. But I definitely understand what you're saying. And I do agree. And I'm a big proponent of the tendering process and increasing competition. But we can get this job done. It's on budget with a contractor that we trust and can do good work for us. So I do think this is the right approach here.
Counselor Bojan? Oh, sorry.
No, just one more. Taking away from anything you say, from anything. Like, even when I look at what's being put in, like the 6-foot, deadman, like, normally you would put in, posts, pipes, whatever you call them. I know, cause I have them. So, like, there's certain things here that I'm not sure are going in the right direction for the long term, just from my knowledge. So I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay, that's it.
Counselor Bojan?
Are there any other companies that we looked at to get the quotation from? Like, other than this single source quote? I can see here that staff reached out to Gordon Shoreline Marine directly. Was there another option to get another quotation, or are they pretty much the only ones in the game that?
There's definitely other contractors in the game. But Gordon has provided good service to us in the past. We've worked with them, we trust them. We know that they can get it done in the timelines we needed to get done. So we only negotiated with them.
And the only reason I asked that is just because, they knew we budgeted 200,000 for this. So They knew they had to be under 200,000 for us to even consider it. So I'm just on the fence too, similar to Councilor Rodriguez. How much money would it, so if we tendered it, would we have had to do, I'm assuming we would have had to do the engineering work and all that stuff in order to have a tender. So I guess that's why I do see the value in it, but it's just a weird thing to, like, why do it for this and not other things? It's just, I feel like we're looking for a reason to use this very specific loophole, for lack of a better word.
Mr. De Silva?
Yeah, just another comment on it. I can understand that the numbers seem a little bit strange, but we did ask them before the budget process, how much they thought this would cost. And they held that number up until the most recent quote that they gave us. So that's why it's so close.
And I might add, just being in the sales game, periodically, it keeps contractors sharp by knowing that something like this could potentially happen. They'll come to the table quicker. They're aware that something like this could be in our back pocket. Yeah, I've seen it work, yeah.
Any further discussion? Dr. Willett, did you have a question?
Is this that's the same company we use for Highland Glen boat launch? For some of the same reasons, right? They did their own engineering. And so we didn't have to go out. We're not looking at close to $1 million to do that repair on that boat launch. They come in for, I forget exactly the amount, but it wasn't 10. Yeah,
Not to confuse, the $1 million was the value that was recommended in the ACOM report.
right.
That was for complete reconstruction. Council at the time directed staff to repair, to get another 10 to 25 years out of it. So what Shoreline Marine did there was a repair to utilize the existing boat launch structure and make it last for another 10 to 25 years to allow us to put a plan together. So in the future, we can rebuild it in a better manner, but not in the short term.
And I guess the other comment I would just make, Mr. Mayor, I support the bid process too. And it wasn't very long ago in this council meeting that I made a statement about a slippery slope bid process, and I stand by that. So I don't like to see this kind of thing neither. It's kind of bypassing the bid process, which makes it quite competitive, hopefully. And you see that in the bids in here today. One was really out of whack and the other one tight. So it's just a comment. I can go along with this one, but.
Well, and to give council a level of comfort, and I might be stealing some of Councilor Rodriguez's words, I think competition in the shoreline area has increased over the last few years with the lake conditions changing. Gordon Shoreline Marine was one of the few companies that stepped forward to help us during the high water levels at Highland Glen. And we appreciated that, and that was part of the reason that we moved forward with this for expediency in this manner. In future projects, as long as we have enough time to plan it, a tendered process is the better way and should always be used. But in efforts to get this done before the end of the year, while the water is agreeable, is why Mr. Silva is bringing this forward in a negotiated method form.
Councilor Basie and then Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. I just, like I say, we just went through this with the Parks and Rec, that if we want to get this done this year, this will be the only way it gets done. And we've been told by everybody out there that lake access is their #1 key driver out there, and it is. You know, you can say it's an emergency, it's not an emergency. You're roading every day, so. It's not gonna get any better by waiting another year to get a bunch of bids and. Price of everything else going up. Does it go up? Another 10 grand. So.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, Councilor Rodriguez?
So just for point of clarification, I believe this year we're only putting, or only 9,500 is budgeted for the access, and that's in the walk down, the walkability down. which was gravel and that was getting, and the drainage, which was getting done before this went up anyway. And the second point is if it went to tender, I'm still trying to understand that part, but if it went to tender, you would just have to lay out in your RFP or whatever it was, or whatever. What the specifications were. You weren't being the engineer. It did not mean an engineering report would then have to be done. It just meant that that would be included as part of the tender process, that they would have to provide the engineer. Is that correct?
Yeah, through your worship. So that's one way to do it. There's two ways that we can go about this. One would be to issue a design build request for proposal. So you would be hiring a general contractor and they would retain the engineering services. The next way, which is probably be my preferred way, would be to hire an engineering consultant right off the hop, have them do all of the detailed design and then put that out for tender. So there's two different ways you could do that.
Okay. Because I know like every shoreline company works with a coastal engineer. So they would all have that available to them. So that was just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Council, I think we've had some good discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Let's go to item 8.4. The motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvette, that the report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated April 16, 2024, regarding the 2018 to 2029 Waterworks Financial Plan update be received, and that Council approved the Waterworks Financial Plan update to include the 2029 calendar year. Anything to add to that, Mr. De Silva?
Yes, if I may, through your worship. I just wanted to add that I apologize for not taking this to the Environmental Services Committee first. This is something that just kind of came to light. And I wanted to get it approved so that we can finish our application process for our license renewal. Another thing I wanted to point out was because our next license will expire in 2029, we'll be working on our financial plan beforehand. So this is just a paper exercise, so to speak, to include 2029. We'll actually have a brand new plan by the time that year was written.
Any questions for Mr. De Silva on this report? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, let's go to 8.5. Motion by Councillor Wolbett, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren. The report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, and Al Little, Operations Coordinator, dated April the 19th, 2024. Regarding the request for proposal to supply and install playground equipment at Plum Park and a swing set at O'Brien Park be received, and that the proposal from Blue Imp Recreational Equipment for $36,463.66 net HST be accepted, and bylaw 44 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this report? Anything to add to that, Mr. De Silva? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 8.6. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated April the 19th, 2024, regarding the mobile food and refreshment vehicle proposal of JJ Snack Shack be received, and the proposal submitted by Jessica White to provide mobile food truck services at the K Park be approved, and that bylaw 45 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Mr. De Silva, anything further to add on this?
Yes, please. I just wanted to draw council's attention to the cost share agreement that the vendor has proposed with us to install a 50 amp receptacle within McKay Park. Staff provided that information to the Parks and Rec Committee and they endorsed that proposal as well. Something that just recently came to light yesterday was the vendor reached out to me and asked if their $2,500 or their cost share, whatever it ends up being, can be deferred until August 1st. I didn't think that that was a great idea, but I did share with her that I would provide that to council. It would ultimately be council's decision on whether we could defer that payment to August 1st. I think she's trying to generate a little bit of revenue first.
Okay. So I guess we basically have two things here to discuss. Number one is the proposal, if we accept it, and secondly, of the deferment on the funding towards the electrical outlet. Where are they proposing to hook that electrical in out of?
To the pool house.
To the pool house? Okay, on the proposal for this JJ Snack Shack to come to McKay Park, any questions on that? Councilor Wabet?
Well, I guess I'll just make the comments on the two items. It looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, she's splitting the cost with you on the installation of the 50 amp service. Correct. So the second part of, she postponed her $2,500 to August 1st. I would say because she's sharing the cost of the receptacle, doesn't hurt to negotiate and give her that option. I think it's just fairness that she's splitting the cost of that receptacle, which won't be too cheap neither. A few $100. That's all I have to say.
Further questions? Councilor Vacy?
I did get asked the question and we never addressed it at Parks and Rec. What were the hours of operation that they'd be allowed? Some of the neighbors are worried that
Yeah,
if it goes on later at night, that it's.
I believe it's 11 to 8 would be hours of operation.
Sounds completely reasonable. Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So the 3,000 I don't have an issue with. I think you were trying to separate them.
It was.
Yes.
Somebody lopped them back.
Yes. So if I can go to the 50 amp service, so we know that obviously the pool house can handle a 50 amp. And, what would you ever use that for again?
Yeah, through your worship, it could be used as a spot for future food trucks or for any other special events within the park.
Oh, so like there's other uses for the.
Yes.
And, I would say that as much as I appreciate the fact that they're just trying to make some money before they do it, I don't know, I think that's, without credit checks or anything, like what if they don't end up doing well? I'm sure they probably will, won't they? I mean, as long I think you guys would know better than me. They probably will.
Busy park.
So I'm sure there's probably then no worry in that sense.
We will own the electrical service afterwards. So
Yeah,
it's ours, so it's not like we're losing that value. It just means we're not getting a co-share on it.
yeah.
Councilor Vacy?
Well, and she right now is redoing the truck itself. So I think that's where a lot of the money is being tied up that. Right. There's a picture of it that it's a fairly new truck, or it is a brand new truck or something that they knew. Yeah. Probably got 50 grand tied up into that just in the overhaul. And like I say, we're not losing the money. We're just kind of being pushed early to get it put in. If we don't put it in, it's going to be a generator, which I'm sure we're going to have more hassle with than riding it. So I'm comfortable with it. Thank you.
Thank you, clerk.
The work would need to be done for the outlet by, is it middle of May she's starting?
May 18th.
I'm assuming that the contractor would invoice the town and then the town would in turn invoice her. So there's time in between there anyways. Does the agreement itself say when that payment is due for the electrical, or could we amend the agreement to just say due in August? And then just make the motion as amended?
Yeah, that's up to council. The agreement is not specific to when it's due.
When it's due. Yeah, if council's looking, you can do it two ways. You can vote that and then vote on delaying the payment, or if you're all in support of delaying the payment, we can just say as amended, and then in the agreement, we will stipulate August.
Yep. Council, are you comfortable with that one?
I think it shows good faith, like she's willing to absorb half. And if she doesn't pay, then Mike can take it out in fries or something.
We've got some free councils in it.
So the mover and seconder is Deputy Mayor McEwen and Councillor Van Claveren. Are you comfortable with adding it? Okay, council, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Councillor Basie, maybe we can invite Deputy Mayor Field over for lunch.
Yeah, I see they're,
Try and keep them away.
we offered to put a sign up for them.
No, and he'll be watching. Okay, Mr. De Silva, thank you for all of your reports there. Let's go to 8.7, a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Bojan, that the report by Aaron Kawarchuk, clerk, dated April the 15th, 2024, regarding outdoor movie projector rental to local nonprofit service clubs be received. The attached policy be approved. Staff be directed to advise local organizations of the policy, include information regarding the rental policy and process on the town's website. I think we had a delegation on this a little while ago, did we not? Yes, and then I think we asked for this to be put together.
High school.
Yes, from LCCVI.
Mhm.
Councillor Basie?
Yes, in the terms of conditions, we've got a $500 deposit. And for damage, but I would like to see that if it's not returned within 10 days or something like that, that. Right here, it's got 30 days, we're gonna bill them for the whole thing, but. After they're done using it, it should come back to us rather quickly and not. You know. Somebody else wants to rent it, now we're out hunting for it and whatnot, that. I would like to see that.
Sure. I think we had the incentive of the $500 that the deposit will be refunded when the equipment is returned. So we were hoping, yeah, within a week, within the week after the event, they would return it because they don't get their $500 back if they don't. And then
Okay.
within 30 days, then we would bill the full amount. Is that a good level of comfort? Look, we're gonna hold that 500 till we get it. And I think for a nonprofit, they're gonna want to get that back.
So clerk, if there's other groups, question that I was asked, if there's other groups that are not listed on there that are interested in renting it, are they allowed to do that and come to see us about it, or what?
The direction we were given was to do it for the nonprofit organizations only. So our own special events committee uses it, and then other nonprofits. I believe Mr. Savansky had emailed some of the nonprofits to see their interest in using it for their own events, rather than our special events coming to each of those events or having to have someone there. They could learn how to use it, put this policy in place, there's protection for the equipment, but it would be only nonprofits. They aren't listed there of like only these nonprofits, but we said within Plympton-Wyoming. To keep it within the town.
Councillor Bojan?
Thank you, through you to staff. I just think we also might need to add one more thing in terms and conditions. When it comes to obtaining the proper license to play a movie or a TV show. It comes with pretty hefty fines if you get caught. I know the events committee has always gotten the proper licenses and stuff, so I think whether it's taking the responsibility off the municipality and putting it on the group to get it, or if they have to provide proof that they've gotten the proper license, so that they're meeting the public performance license requirements.
Or sorry, Mr. Matthews, or-
I think we can amend to
Yeah.
add that they're responsible for that because YouTube is public and YouTube has movies, so you can watch YouTube on it technically if you had a connection, can you not?
Not for an audience of people. So if you're playing a movie or a TV show, it can, even if it's on your, like on Netflix, for example, you have to, it's actually, because we've done it with the events committee, unless you're playing it in a classroom, you're not exempt from it. So you literally have to buy a DVD or say what platform you're streaming it on. So if it's Netflix, you still have to buy the license to play it. And they have a bunch of things in the calculation, like how far are you from a movie theater? Like, there's a bunch of stuff in terms of how much you pay. And to the point where it's hard to make money because you gotta pay for the license.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunately the way it is, and it's a big fine if you don't, and get caught.
Your worship, we can definitely put some language in there to amend the policy that they're required to get the license under their name. It's not the town, it's up to them to source that. So we can amend that. I'll get the appropriate language if that's.
So that was Counselor Van Clapper and Counselor Bojan. Are you comfortable with adding that amendment to it? Counselor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So I just want to go back to, Counselor Vesey's statement about the time limit. So I'm trying to understand, like, when you're done with it, you should just return it. What if somebody else has rented it out? And do you just work that out and say, hey, we've got another renter? Big deal?
Yeah.
I just feel like the longer you leave something, the chances are that.
It's hard to put in there like specific timelines because when they have the person in there that can tear it down and
Right.
transport it in the vehicle and, oh, we gotta wait till Tuesday till we can get a truck. And
Right.
so I think we would have to say, no, we already have another booking. We need it back by this day. They want to get their $500 deposit back. They're gonna get it back pretty quick and 30 days will bill them for the full.
So we've had it as amended to that motion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 8.8. I have a motion by Counselor Rodriguez, seconded by Counselor Bojan. A report by Aaron Clerk dated March the 11th, 2024, regarding detailed text in meeting minutes and linking to YouTube videos be received, and that council supports staff's recommendations A to D within the report. Score Chuck, anything to add to your report?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Okay, any questions? Counselor Bojan?
Can I clarify, is it 1 year right now we're keeping recordings? I think personally, we should extend that beyond 1 year on YouTube if we're getting rid of detailed minutes personally.
Yes.
I agree. Our policy is 1 year. 1 year plus 30 days, maybe? Yeah, I think, and so that was May, so we would be at our, that's why we brought this up now, is we're at that point. Council can discuss if they felt it needed to be permanent. There is no maximum storage for that, or for the term of council, for 2 years. There's several options there.
So do you need to do that now with this one?
I think it's a good idea, because we will be linking those in the minutes. If council approves it, then it just is cleaner and we would amend the policy. Say, because we are getting to the time where we're gonna be deleting the first a month and then a month and then a month.
Madam Clerk, could that be accomplished by amending D to say add all YouTube links to minutes and that the procedural bylaw be amended to make the YouTube recordings permanent?
Yeah, it's just not the procedural, it's a policy. Yeah,
Sorry.
so amend the policy. Yep.
Okay, I got Counselor Vasey next. Sorry, Counselor Bojan, are you? I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, like, whether it's extending it to 4 years, whether it's making it permanent. I just think it needs to be more than a year if we're getting rid of detailed stuff.
I think the general feeling is yes. Counselor Vasey?
Yes, I was gonna, the same thing about the year, and seems like a huge waste of time to me to be sitting here doing this and recording it, and then spending 3 hours tomorrow typing up what, so I agree 100% with it.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes, I agree. I mean, we're in that is a lot of time, and for recording it, there's no point. But in saying that, there's a lot of, like, there's several people I've talked to, they, when are the minutes gonna be out for this, when are the minutes gonna be out for that don't rely on this. It was surprisingly don't use YouTube. So I guess that one's gonna be a fun transition.
I was just gonna say, it's a transition time,
Yeah.
right? There was a time where
Yeah.
that text was
Yeah,
the only thing we had.
yeah.
But it is becoming very obvious how much time when you walk around the office and watch staff watching YouTube on one monitor.
I know, right?
And
Yeah.
typing the exact summary on one monitor it became very evident that we needed to look at this.
No,
And
I
at the
agree.
time frame where the YouTube videos are looking to get deleted, so.
I'm
It's a
just saying,
transition,
I'm
yeah.
just saying I empathize with you when it happens and, and I agree, putting a 4-year limit even, because then you'd have something that carries over that a new council might wanna refer back to, because they're jumping into things that already exist. Doesn't matter, because we're doing this, doesn't matter to me if it's permanent. If we had talked about this a year ago, I would have said leave it permanent, get rid of it too. For sure.
Councillor Van Cleven.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any limitations? Is there any reasons why we not want to keep it permanently? And even having asked that question, at any given time, could we not delete something if we felt it was appropriate?
Mayor is, yes, go ahead, clerk.
As far as I'm aware, there is no limitation. Obviously YouTube's, a business and they're gaining advertising and things on that. So, I haven't heard of any limitations from anyone else that uses it. There is caveats in the policy to say that if there was an issue with a video or something inappropriate happened, there is provisions to remove things that are not appropriate. We went through that quite a bit in the policy.
So, excuse me, so can you edit? If you must, like, yeah, something inappropriate, can you edit an actual?
Think
YouTube
we
video?
can, we've never had to. I don't think, and we talked about this when we did the policy, we're not editing out what people are saying or not saying, or how things are perceived or not perceived. But if there was an emergency,
Sure.
or something, we're out of respect for people, like there'll be a very specific time. That would be-
Big and rare.
Yeah, because it could be people in the audience that I always look at that as the same as the YouTube, right? So, that's how we.
Councillor Bojan.
Could we just adjust it's a policy?
Yeah.
So can we just adjust it that it's the general practice to keep it for 4 years, for example? And the only reason I say that is because tomorrow YouTube they could change the rules and say, now you gotta pay $500 a month to have 600 hours of content. So is there a way to make it so that the general practice is keep it for 4 years? That way, if something changes, then it's not like, I don't think we're gonna pay a stupid amount of money if YouTube ever changed their platform. Is there a way to keep it that loose?
I think there is for sure.
If that's the,
If that's the will of council for sure.
well, I'll let Council Basie go, but I'm okay to try to get some for a general practice to keep it for 4 years.
Councillor Basie.
I'm just thinking this discussion happened when we went from paper copies to digital. That, oh my God, we're not gonna have a book full of these things anymore. Be on the computer and get lost and move with the times. I think it's a great idea. Keep them.
Councillor Rodriguez. Sorry.
Are you supportive of 4 years, Council?
Is there a way that we can keep them?
As
Or we
far
can
as,
pull them off the internet, but still have archive of them?
No, because they're found only in the YouTube cloud.
Cloud
only
storage.
on.
Yeah.
We could download them, but the policies delete them, right? And we get charged for our storage on the county system too, so. You wouldn't
There's
be
no-
saving
there's no charge on that YouTube.
No, and I like the idea that
charge on YouTube
we
currently.
could always move back if they
Yeah, the
say,
policy can be amended if
take
changes come
note,
forward.
say it's
Yeah,
$1,000 a
absolutely.
month now to keep them.
We'll be addressing it really quickly.
Yes.
Mhm.
So yes, I'm all for it.
Okay, Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with like a
Always
minimum
agree.
amount of time for sure, and yeah, those things change all the time and where they. And then like, okay, now you gotta pay, so it's not uncommon.
Councillor Wavette.
I'm gonna go against the grain as usual. I realize times are changing. Realize all the new technical stuff that's coming along. Personally, I don't trust anything that's on this computer, period. I don't trust any of these programs that is running, whether it's YouTube or X or any of that stuff. This stuff gets hacked every day. AI can alter anything that's on this computer, including whatever we say at these council meetings, whether you believe that or not, it can be done. So, and I know that not everybody sits and watches YouTube or even knows how to access YouTube. They like their paper minutes when they request them, and they're on our town website. So I have all kinds of problems with this. I raised this at the time in an open council meeting about our secretary sitting here running the electronics and their ability to do minutes at the time. That was discussed in an open meeting. And I said very clearly at that time, I said, is this not going to interfere? Like, we're going to have to run that thing and make minutes. And it was said, no, don't worry about it. They're at the meeting anyways. So they're sitting there anyways. And that's what I was told at the time we're putting the video into place. So, same with us. If I want to look back at past minutes now or what was said or whatever, am I going to have to sit here, go on to YouTube and search through YouTube? If it's a 4-hour meeting, find out what did I say there? What did I do? Like if I'm going, because here I look at the past minutes that are on here. I just click on it, go to 3.4 or 5.6, and there's the item that was dealt with. But YouTube, you're going to have to go and search and figure out somewhere in that 1 to 4 hour meeting, where the heck was it I said that while I'm sitting here viewing videos? So look, and I can live with it. I understand technology is changing, but think about this. Is this really the right thing to do at this time? I just, not everybody, the computer, they like their paper minutes and to make their notes. So
Counselor Bojan and then the Clerk Flynn.
Thank you. Just the council rule, but just as devil's advocate, not to drag it on anymore. I would take your first piece there and say that's an argument for keeping the recordings. Could you talk about, like, if we're live streaming, you talk about the AI and the manipulating video, all that can happen whether we keep it or not. But if you keep the recording, you at least have the original. So if a video were to be manipulated, it's very easy to say, here's the original, and it's all there, that this is the original undoctored one. So I think the fear of AI manipulation is an argument for keeping recordings, and that's just my opinion.
Ms. Flynn?
I'm just gonna clarify, we are still keeping minutes, resolutions, motions, new business, all that is staying. It's just the he said, she said, council discussed, that part's gonna be omitted. So there is still going to be the most important parts that are the decisions of the meetings being kept.
but when we're asked here at the council meeting to review the past minutes or whatever, and you have an issue, what do you got to do? Go on YouTube here and go back and look through the video?
Did you want to speak to
Like,
minutes in the?
Yeah, so in the municipal act and in the town's procedural bylaw, it actually says that minutes are to be taken without note or comment. The decision is really all that matters. Proceedings, all that, how we got to that decision. It's great to have the video or great to have the notes, but those 2 documents specifically say without note or comment. This town's practice has been to do it. But we're at a time where how can 7 staff do this? And it's already there waiting for us. So the decision is the most important. And that's what they're looking for us to keep: proceedings and decisions and conflicts of interest, new business, something that wasn't on an agenda that the public weren't aware that it was going to be discussed. So that's things like that, counselors' reports. So there'll still be a lot of things there. But myself or other staff summarizing what a video says is open to interpretation, open to the writer. The decision of council is what matters.
and I get that. We've had this discussion before, but I know the council of the day, right in your report here, I believe the council of the day wanted minutes to be taken of the meetings. The decision of this council, not this council, but in this council chambers, continue minutes with the form of detail. So that was a decision here at the time, and like I said, people still read minutes, and not everybody's on the computers and YouTube and whatever. So anyway, that I've said enough.
It was just a basket. Were you going to add or do the?
No, I think that's.
Clerk has covered it. Okay, Counselor Rodriguez, now we're going to move this along.
Thank you. So I just wanted to speak to the keeping a recording. That can be very costly to keep in-house recordings. You have to have a whole storage room of hard drives to keep things, and like a 10 terabyte or 10 gig hard drive. You probably store about 2-3 months worth, and those costs are around $500-600. and up for one of those. And then you need a device, you know, to be able to put it on, and can you even download it because it's on YouTube, right, as you were stating. So you can I don't disagree with it necessarily because a lot of security concerns. I mean, what if it does get hacked someday and what if they're all gone? No, we still got our minutes.
Same note, digital minutes can be hacked and changed and put out into the public too.
Sure.
So it's anything is possible, unfortunately.
So to clarify that, and we would, if council's looking to do as amended, which would be amending the policy.
Right.
We get a consensus on a 4-year permanent
I think the general feeling is that we want
minimum.
to add a term to that. So I'm open for, do you want to go with 2 years, 4 years? What do you feel?
General practice of 4 years was what the suggestion was.
Yeah, so it's
Say 4 minimum.
meant for minimum.
4
Chairman Council,
4 years?
Do we want to say 4 years or term of council? Because if we say 4 years, that goes in a mid-year right now.
it's true. That's why I said that.
It is a 4-year term, but if he's starting now, it's not the 4-year term.
Ready?
Okay, so I'm hearing 4 years and I'm also hearing the term of council. What is your decision? Councilor Basie?
Well, if we do the term of council, this would mean the next council
That's to come in and.
wouldn't have,
Something to look at.
wouldn't have anything to look at. So if we go for 4 years from now, it would at least overlap and they can make the decision at that time. You can make the decision at that time. Extend it or not, or shorten it, lengthen it. But it would at least get it to the new council is all I'm thinking.
Yes.
So just to be clear, we, as per what Counselor, and you can correct me, Counselor Bowden, you were just saying you wanted to see some sort of minimum in there to give it flexibility in case pricing came in.
I more so wanted the flexibility that if they change it tomorrow, then we have no storage. So like,
Right.
it's it's our guideline, like, it's our general practice to keep it for 4 years is my suggestion. That way, if YouTube changed it tomorrow, now our general practice is 0 years because we can't store it. That's what I was.
So we're
Right.
still meeting our policy.
Yeah.
So you didn't want the permanent, but with a minimum 4 years is what, or just the 4 years?
I'm
That's what
good.
I'm trying to
I'm
understand.
I'm good with general practice to keep it for 4 years, not really
Okay.
the term, just 4 years.
Okay.
Is my suggestion.
That's what I was looking for, Claire.
Clerk, we need to amend that.
Yes.
Yeah, the mover and seconder is Rodriguez and Bojan. Are you okay with adding as we lead everyone? You want me to reread the motion? Okay, moved by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Bojan that the report Chuck. Clerk dated March 11th, 2024 regarding detailed text in meeting minutes and linking to YouTube videos be received and council support staff's recommendations A to D within the report as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Council will go to 8.9. Motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Wolvett, that the report by Aaron Warchuck dated April 16th, 2024 regarding an agreement for the provision of additional services under the Community Safety and Policing Act is received and that bylaw 42 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 8.10, a motion by Councilor Bojan, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren. That the report by Al Little, Operation Coordinator, and Chandra Sisson, Administrative Assistant Public Works, dated April the 17th, 2024, regarding applications to fund the restoration of the Kamlaki Cenotaph be received, staff be directed to submit an application to Veterans Affairs Canada and the Judith and Norman Alex Foundation. Any questions on that? We do know that our cenotaph does need some work. Councillor Basie?
Yes, thank you. I think this is a great idea, great, we can get it. Are we 100% sure we do not have to move the cenotaph if the Optimus rink goes forward? They don't want to move it twice.
Mr. Sabansky?
We were told it didn't affect it, but I want to make sure that.
Mr. Sabansky?
So although there has been a proposed location for the Optimist outdoor ice rink, that has not been confirmed yet. If the ice rink stays in the proposed location, they have noted in their proposal that they will not be disturbing the cenotaph.
Councillor Lovett?
It's not that long ago that we made major repairs to that cenotaph. Now, I'm just thinking out loud, but I know, at some brick buildings and stuff, they're able to spray certain stuff on them to protect the mortar joints and stuff like that. I'm not sure what the product is, but I know we did a lot of major repairs on that not that long ago, so it's fallen apart again. So maybe that's something they should look at for final
Mr. Sabansky?
touches.
So a lot of this was put together before, while you guys were away at Good Roads and last week. I've been in discussions with Mr. Little, who conveyed the message from the mason who looked at it. The issue is not the exterior cladding or the exterior portion of the border. It's that there's no weeping system in behind the stone. So when water gets in, it's retained and then it pushes out the mortar. So the coating wouldn't help in this situation.
Thank you. Anything further on that? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, well, let's before we roll into items number 9 into bylaws, I'd like to take a 15-minute personal break. So at this time, for those that are watching us virtually, it's now 6:30. We'll be back at approximately 6:45. Back, everyone. So let's go to item number 9. The agenda, motion by Deputy Mayor McKeon, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren. That bylaw 14 of 2024 for the Invercarron Drain, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the town of Plympton-Wyoming, in the county of Lambton, be taken as having been read a third time, finally passed this 25th day of April 2024, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? Great. Go to item 9.2. Motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that bylaw 46, 2024, being a bylaw to appoint officers, board, and committee members and employees of the corporation, be approved and taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed. The mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions? Councillor Wolbert?
We have a livestock committee, do we not? Anybody on that anymore?
Believe so. Clerk?
Thank you, your worship. In the time I've worked here, we've never had a committee, but we have an evaluators, livestock evaluator. So they're called in when there's an issue, but there's never been a committee.
We had,
This one,
they fence find.
You,
fence finder, that was also just one person. Yeah, fence finder.
committee?
That's fine.
Councillor Basie?
I assume, Mr. Bedard is trained to be a livestock evaluator?
Is this good?
Kelly.
Yeah.
Kelly, not Carrie.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking Kelly. Well,
Yeah.
even Kelly doesn't matter.
Kelly
but
could be.
Yes.
I wouldn't know the first thing to, I think it's Cal.
Yes, there's specific training that the bylaw enforcement officers took to represent our municipality. They took that through the county of Lambton.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item number 10. Any correspondence items, clerk?
Nothing for action.
Let's go to 11.1. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolbert. Correspondence items A to O relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items to be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. That's items A to O, beginning on my right. Councillor Bojan, anything for you?
I just want to call attention to 2 things, just item G, just to thank Mr. Clark for the work with the emergency management. It's nice to see that letter come through. And then the other one, I'm just gonna jump on the soapbox with Deputy Mayor just to make her feel a little bit better, is item F. Just to call attention to it, it's a letter from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. It's good to see that they're recognizing the importance of farmers and farmland. And I just think that hopefully they keep that strong position when the county might want to rapidly expand our settlement areas, or more importantly, because the province keeps tying funding to housing starts lately. When it's a small municipality like ours and we don't have the infrastructure or the non-prime agricultural land to meet these massive expansions, I just hope they remember how much they care about farmers and farmland. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Definitely be getting a Christmas card. Councillor Basie.
I don't think I have anything.
Okay, Councillor Bojan? Sorry, I've asked you. Councillor.
Encore. Myself,
Yes, it's your turn.
Chris, or Roger, Counselor, whatever.
It'll be Rodriguez.
So item O, I was going to point out, but then our clerk told me there is an update on the phase out of water well testing. We still have a lot of wells in our jurisdiction because there are no water lines because we need more infrastructure. And we need more funding to help get it there, so. I would have been totally in support of that, but there is an update.
Good evening, your worship. We had another resolution similar to this that was coming at May 8th meeting. from the Thames and Hammond Region Drinking Water Source Protection Group, which we have an agreement with. They do our source water protection, and she did send the resolution, which would be on next week's agenda. But she did say the message that they're hearing from Police Park is the program will remain in place at this time. So that was the update I just got this afternoon.
All right. Good. Thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor, anything from you?
No.
Dr. Van Claveren?
No, thank you.
Dr. Wolvet?
No, sir.
Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. New business. Counselor Wolvet, anything from you?
I do not have anything tonight, sir.
Okay, Counselor Van Claveren?
Nothing for me, sir.
Deputy Mayor?
Nothing, sir.
Sir Rodriguez?
Oh,
Wow.
it's like, what-
Don't stop breathing.
Go to the next one.
hurry up before.
Well, I just want to get my soapbox. I have nothing, thank you.
I think Alex says that to you.
Yeah, not much better than me.
Counselor Bolgen?
I'm all out of things, thank you.
Clerk?
I don't, your worship, but I did provide a card to be able to take you over here.
You know.
And him.
Thank you. So previously, council requested an update in regards to CMHC's programs for affordable and missing middle housing. Myself, Ms. Flynn, thank you for setting up the meeting. And I believe, Paul, you joined us to discuss what the CMHC currently has other than the housing accelerator assist with the construction of affordable housing or missing middle housing. They do offer a number of non-fundable grant programs. However, they're oriented towards the developers themselves. So what we will be doing is, as developers come forward with proposals that meet the criteria of CMHC, we'll be sure to get them in touch with our CMHC representative and help guide them through the process to encourage them to obtain those grants, which will encourage construction of lower income missing middle housing. CMHC did inform me that the federal budget does include new HAP funding. I asked if that would mean that our previous application would be approved and moved forward, or if there'd be a new round of applications required. They did not know at that time. So hopefully we get more information on that shortly. Hopefully they select individuals who did not receive HAP funding for the last round. And then instead of having to resubmit an application, because the applications were quite cumbersome, and we would not necessarily want to spend the expense of submitting a second, given the lack of progress on the first one.
Could you just clarify half funding?
Housing Accelerator Fund from the federal government.
Counselor Wolvet?
Just on that topic, quickly, down at Good Roads, being set up, there was going to be a question asked to Mr. Ford on why the rural municipalities didn't get in on that funding, but there's supposed to be a question period, but there was no question period. They set the microphones and everything, and right, John, there was nothing questions. It didn't get asked.
Not to answer for Mr. Ford, but I'm sure his answer would have been something like that is a federal initiative. Email Justin Trudeau. The province did not have anything to do with the Housing Accelerator Fund. That was strictly a federal initiative.
Counselor Bolgen?
Speaking of ones that Mr. Ford would have done, did we get our application in for the Housing Water Enabling Fund in time?
Yes, we did.
Perfect, thank you.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So, you stated that, there were some funds available for developers.
Yes.
Which I'm glad to hear that, because that's really who needs the incentivizing. We can't force the building of homes. It's the developers who need some incentives to do so. Is there a way we can kind of promote that on the website or provide that information on the website or?
Yes, it's most,
Or Facebook or
I
whatever?
provided the links to from CMHC. I'll work with staff to put together an appropriate document for public.
Okay.
Yeah. Good, that's all for new business. Okay, next we're gonna be going camera. I have a motion by Counselor Rodriguez, second by Counselor Bolgen. Council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons. Item A, third-party confidential information, section 239, bracket 2, bracket 1. Information that has been supplied in confidence by a third party. And item B, personal matters, section 239, bracket 2, bracket B. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so those that are joining with us virtually, we want to thank you for sitting in this evening. We will be in camera for a period of time. We'll be returning to go out and then close the meeting off. Thank you very much for being with us.